Hello everybody and welcome or welcome back to the second shelf, and yes, to another book haul. I bought a couple of books. I mean, I was ill in September, coughing, but that didn't prevent me from buying books. And it's not my usual 7, it's 8, so there is a bonus book, so to speak. Well, the first 3 that I want to show you, I have talked already about them in my Victober. They're all for Victober, and I talked about them in my Victober TBR video. I will leave links to the Victober announcement videos by the hosts and my own Victober TBR video down below, but I at least want to show them to you. So the first one is Dina Maria Mullock Craig. It says Mullock on the cover, but John Halifax, a gentleman, not a gentleman, but John Halifax, gentleman, in this really, really beautiful edition, even though I don't like tickled edges that much. But the edition is still beautiful with the French flaps and the floppy and the cover. I really like the cover. So this one is the story of John Halifax, who is an orphan. It's kind of a Dickensian, David Copperfield kind of story, a poor orphan who is taken in as an apprentice and then works his way up to become quite wealthy. So this one is for Victober. The next one is also gorgeous but tiny, and that is Christina Rossetti, Goblin Market and Other Poems. And I bought this one for the Goblin Market poem, which is about 2 sisters who are seduced by the goblins, or 2 of them, when they went to the Goblin Market, and I picked this one for the prompt outsider, and because Kate from Kate How, she spoke so enthusiastically about this poem that I thought I really want to read this. And as you know, I'm not reading that many poems, or poetry is not my forte, and I thought, well, there are 15 or so, more than 15, there maybe 20 or 25 more poems. So I'm committed to reading Goblin Market, but I will definitely try to read at least some of the other poets. And it's not a huge collection, and it's really gorgeous, so I should have no difficulty picking this up. And the third book I bought for Victober is Margaret Oliphant, Hester. Margaret Oliphant most of the time used dead, of course, used as her pen name, Mrs. Oliphant. And this book was first published, let me see, 1883. The Rossetti was 1862, and the John Halifax book was 1856. And this is I picked this one because it's about the aging Catherine Vernon, and she has risen to power in a man's world as the head of the family bank. And I thought that was fascinating. I didn't even know that it was possible back then in the Victorian age for a woman to be the head of a bank, let alone that there would be a novel about it. And of course, then the title character Hester is a younger relative, and there is a power struggle between Catherine, the older powerful woman, and this young challenger, so to speak. So that sounded fascinating as well. So those are the 3 books that I bought for Victober. I will read one on script because I couldn't get it, and one is a reread, so I have that already. So there are 5 books on my Victober TBR. And then there is a theme going on at the moment in my reading and book buying. The video I made on Sunday about my recent reads, I briefly talked about the book Monsters by Claire Dederer, about art and the artist, and what should we do if the artist is a really, really bad person? Should we still consume the art? Should we just separate the two entirely? And the question of art and women in art and women talking about art has become a theme for me. So I want to read more about that. And one of the books that I bought now is Olivia Laing, Funny Weather, Art in an Emergency. And that's essays, a collection of essays about art, writing about art and culture, examining their roles in our political and emotional lives. And she talks about not only female artists, but some female artists that I'm particularly interested in, like Georgia O'Keeffe, Hilary Mantel, Ali Smith. So it's art in the broad sense, I should have said. So it's not only visual art or reading books, but in a broad sense. And I really love Olivia Laing's nonfiction. I think she's a brilliant thinker about stuff. And I have been meaning to buy this one. This came out a couple of years ago, 2020, yeah, so 3 years ago, and I've been meaning to buy this for quite a while and haven't. And now that I want to make art and women in art kind of theme for my reading for a while, I finally got this. And so is also the next one into this theme. This is a book that I have already read, almost finished, just a couple of half an hour left on audio, and I thought it was really good, and I want to first of all reread it, but I also want to have it on my shelf, and that is Catherine McCormick, Women in the Picture, Women, Art, and the Power of Looking. And this is about, obviously, not so much the artist, but about how we portray, in Western, it's about Western art, how women are portrayed in paintings. That is the gist of the book. And I will talk about it when I have finished it entirely, but I really love this. So this is a book, I think she is, I can't quite remember whether she was a journalist or whether she teaches. I will tell you all about that when I wrap up the book, but it was fascinating how certain themes of women, you know, the mother, the maiden, the monstrous woman, how we are depicted in paintings and what that can tell us, and mainly paintings painted by guys. So I thought this was fascinating. So those are the two nonfiction books with this theme on women and art, and I definitely want to look for more books about that. Maybe at some point also fiction, but at the moment I'm focusing on nonfiction. The next book is a short little book reissued by New Direction. New Directions is an independent publisher, and I think they have a really interesting list of books. And this one, Francesco by Alison Mills Newman, was first published in 1974 and was unavailable for a long time, and has now been reissued this year by New Directions. I had never heard of this author, Alison Mills Newman. Her age is not, you can't find it, but when I look at her picture, I would say she is in her 70s. That's what I gather. And she was an actress. She started to act when she was 12 years old in a series. She's a black woman, by the way, American. And this book is tiny little, but obviously an underappreciated modern classic about a young black artist chronicles. Yeah, she chronicles her life, her relationship with a filmmaker in the 1970s, the Black arts movements. So that sounded fascinating. And I'll be reading this in October together with Adam from Memento Mori and Kathleen from Kathleen Ann Reads, I think her channel is called now. So we will be, second half of October, we will be reading this. So it will take a little bit until I will talk about the book again. And the next one is one of the books that is on my 1001 books by women I want to read before I die list, and that is Vita, Sacral, West, All Passion Spent. And this is a probable buddy read with Heidi from my reading life, but we haven't set a date yet, and the book was first published in 1931. Now, Vita, Sacral, West was the same, moved in the same circles and lived in the same time as Virginia Woolf. They were friends, lovers. She is, I think, mainly famous for her gardening and for her garden and her gardening, but she was also a writer, non-fiction and fiction. And this is a book about a young girl of 17, Lady Slane, in 1860, and she wants to become an artist, but of course, life at that time, 1860, for a woman, that's not what was in the card. So she got married, and she became a wife to an important statesman, and had 6 children. And then 70 years later, so we're now in almost the middle of the 20th century, she's a widow and she can finally do what she wants. And so she goes, abandons the trappings of wealth and retires to a tiny house in Hampstead to the dismay of her pompous offspring. Sounds fascinating. I always like books with older protagonists, female protagonists. You don't have that many. And if you, in contemporary books, often they are quirky. You know, they are kind of as if you are old, you have to be like the Miss Marple kind of type in order, you know, to be important enough to be the protagonist of a book. And I'm not in for that kind of quirky stuff. They're weird, quirky in the weird sense. And yeah, but I'm interested in books that, especially if the older protagonist is not too old, considered not too old by the author to turn her life around. That's always stuff that fascinates me. So I'm really looking forward to that. And the last one, the bonus book, so to speak, number 8, is a non-fiction book and also a potential buddy read, this time with Kathleen, from Kathleen Ann, and that is The Personality Brokers, The Strange History of Myers-Briggs and the Birth of the Personality Testing by Merv Emre. And I came across Merv Emre. She did the introduction to a book that I read recently, and of course I just knew it. 10 seconds ago, I knew which book it was, and it flew right out of my head. If I remember, I will tell you down below in the show notes. And she sounded, I never heard of her, Merv Emre, and I Googled her, and then it turned out she wrote this book. And I am a sucker for personality tests. I don't know about you, but if I come across, you know, when I Google something or when I'm looking for something, and then I come across the, I don't know, ABCD personality test, are you a hoarder or are you a I will always click on that link and do the test. And of course, I also did the Myers-Briggs. And I think all these personality tests, it's fascinating. And I'm really interested in this, the development of these tests in the 1920s by the mother-daughter team of Catherine Briggs and Isabel Briggs Myers. Fascinating. I'm not sure when we will read this book, but I'm definitely happy that I found this. And again, I will try to remember to look up which book did this author write the introduction to. I'm such an airhead. Anyway, this was my September book haul. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it. Let me know whether you read any of the books or whether you're interested in any of them. I'm looking forward to your comments, as you know, and I'll talk to you all soon in the next one.